The lighting is weird. I'm filming at night. The day got away with me. But it's fine. It'll be fine. Everything's fine. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is a little bit later time in the day that I normally film, so my lighting is purely fake lighting. We're gonna run with it. The day got away with me. This is Tuesday, and I usually try to film my midweek video over the weekend, but it just, weekend got away with me. Got away from me. So what's today's video about? I thought I would show you the best books that I've read because of Booktube in the last 4 years or so. Technically 5 years, because I was watching Booktube before I started making videos. And I saw a video from Susan at Road Reads, and I will link it below. She kind of did the same thing. She's been on Booktube 5 years, I think, and she kind of went through her yearly wrap-ups to talk about her best books of every year. Now, I'm only going to show you one or a couple from each of the years that I'm going to talk about. And yeah, I'll show you some of my favorites. I could go on for hours of the most wonderful books I've read because of Booktube. And all of the books I'm going to show you are books I never would have discovered on my own. I can almost guarantee you these books would not have jumped out at me from the bookshop, and I don't know if any of these as new releases would have been on my radar. So I'm going to show you. Now I'm going to start in 2018 because that's when I started watching Booktube, and I was watching for almost a year before I decided to start creating videos. And when I finally decided to create videos, it was 2019, and I didn't post my first video until mid-December of that year. So in December of this year, it'll be is that right? Yeah, it'll be 4 years on Booktube, so it's coming up fast. So what is the best book? I think for 2018, I only pulled out one book. What's the best book or the most memorable book I read because of Booktube in 2018? And it was Tin Man by Sarah Winman. I initially checked this out from the library, and it is this little copy. It's a very small hardcover book, but the cover is beautiful. It's sunflowers with kind of that gold foiling. I think you can see the shine there. And Tin Man is the story of two boys who were childhood friends, and when they get into adulthood, they both fall in love with the same woman, but they're also probably in love with each other. So it's such an interesting book. It is a beautifully written story, and I absolutely loved it. I initially checked it out from the library. I think that's what I already said. And I was considering stealing it from the library because it was this copy with the Mylar cover on it, and I was the first one to check it out and read it, so it was pristine. I was this close to committing an illegal library crime, but I did not, and I went and bought my own copy. So the next books I'm going to show you are from 2019. If you've been watching my channel since the beginning, some of these will come as zero surprise, but this one is Milkman by Anna Burns. Loved this book. I think it's written brilliantly. It won the Booker in 2018. I read it in 2019. The only reason I knew about it was because of Booktube reviews and the Booker Prize, which I don't really get too far into the prize list. I do pay attention, and I paid attention to the Booker Prize this year. It's just an incredibly written book. The story is compelling, and the formatting that she uses and the way she characterized her people, they're all nameless. And it is set in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. A young teenage girl is followed around by an Irish paramilitary soldier who they've nicknamed Milkman. It is just an incredible book, and I just oh, I have so much love for this book. 4 years later, and I'm still thinking of this book. And that's, to me, for me personally, that is the mark of a brilliant book. Also, there's 2 more books I want to show you from 2019. The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. I never, ever, ever would have found this book or the Broken Earth trilogy without Booktube. I don't remember where I first saw it. I just don't remember, but I thought, oh, that sounds really good. And N.K. Jemisin is a Hugo and Nebula Award winner multiple times, and I'm not really into science fiction, but it just sounded so good. It sounded more like a mixture of science fiction and fantasy. This book was incredible, and there's a twist that I never saw coming, but that made perfect sense, and loved this book. And I read the series, I read the trilogy, and this one is the best one in my opinion. But these are the reasons I'm so grateful to be on Booktube, because I can't read all the reviews. I can't read all of the book recommendations. And without Booktube, all of these books on my shelves that I adore would have gone unread by me. So, yay for Booktube. And the last one from 2019, this Quartet in Autumn by Barbara Pym. I didn't have a clue who Barbara Pym was before Shawn the Book Maniac. And how would I have ever discovered her? I've since read 2 or 3 of her books. This one so far is my favorite. I love Quartet in Autumn. It is a slim little book. It is the story of 4 elderly co-workers who just, the dynamics, the curmudgeonliness, the secrets, and the discussion about end of life and work and loneliness. It is so good. It is so good. And I just loved it. Barbara Pym's books are the kind of books that would just be a pleasure to reread. And I will absolutely never get rid of this book and definitely reread it someday. Okay, the next year is 2020. Do I have more than, I think I have one book for I have one book for 2020. No surprise. No surprise. It's Hamnet from Maggie O'Farrell. This book made me cry twice, and books haven't done that for me in many, many, many years. And this one was the actual tears coming out of my eyes. I just adore this book, and it's one of the prettiest books I've ever owned. Inside and out, again, here we go with the naked hardback. It's just gold foil galore. But this is basically the story of Shakespeare's son, Hamnet, and his death. It is just a beautiful book. The winner of a couple of prizes. I think it won the Women's Prize. What else did it win? I don't remember. It didn't win the Booker. Women's Prize. Something else. The Booktube Prize. It is a gorgeous, compelling, emotional book, and got me all in the feels. All the feels were set right off. Triggered all the feels. And again, no surprises here. No surprises for 2021. 2021. Let's see. Red Comet by Heather Clark. Heidi, I'm so sorry. You know what? I'm not going to apologize for any of this. I'm not going to apologize for the books I love. Okay, this is another book that made me cry. I know what happened. I knew what was going to happen. Who doesn't know what happened to Sylvia Plath? I knew what was coming, but I could not stop myself. As I was getting to the end of the book, I could feel myself shake. I could feel the emotions bubbling to the surface, and I was already grieving. But this book, my Lord, it is long and super long and super long and long some more. There's so much detail. There is so much research. It is fascinating, and it is so well written. My fingers hurt just holding it up. I absolutely adore this book, and this got me back into Sylvia Plath. I reread The Bell Jar. I read Mary Ventura and the Seventh Kingdom, her short poetry book, short story book. I have started reading her journals. I have started to collect books of Sylvia Plath, poetry, biographies. I'm hooked. This book hooked me. A book that I have not stopped recommending, another 2021 read. Now, all of these books are not published in the years I'm talking about, but those are the years I read them. Greenwood by Michael Christie. Another pretty book with the copper foil copper. Oh, love that color. This book I recommend to almost everybody that asks me for a book recommendation. This is such a well-written story, well-plotted, wonderful characters. So interesting. There's mystery, there's intrigue, there's a little fantasy element, there's conservation, there's natural world. It is just so good. So good. It's a joy to read. The language and the words and the sentences. It is a beautiful book. It starts in the future, goes inward to the past, and comes back out at the future. It is such an interesting way to write. And I recommend it to every single person who wants a good book to read. Anybody can read it. I read a lot of books that I would not recommend to just anybody, but this one, anybody would love it. And the last book from 2021, I've read this twice already, and I don't usually reread books very close together. I'll read a book and reread it many years later because I want to revisit it. But this one is so excellent, and I dog-eared this book, and all my dog ears are still here, and they're too many to count because I don't like using the tabbies. But this is Now in November by Josephine Johnson. She was the youngest Pulitzer winner, and she was 24 years old when she won the Pulitzer for this book in 1935. The only reason I found out about this book was through Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading, and she just gushed about it, and I thought, that sounds right up my alley. That is a Kim book for sure. I read it and just could not believe the beauty of what I just read. And then Kelly and Buddy read it together last year, I think, and it was even better than the first time I read it. And this is a shorty. This is less than 200 pages. It's just such a gorgeous, bleak, depressing, beautiful, angry book. And the setting, it blows my mind at how young Johnson was when she wrote this book. And I think this is another one of those books I could recommend to everybody. And if you like The Grapes of Wrath, you would probably love this. The Grapes of Wrath is one of my all-time favorite American classics, and this one is probably right next to it. It is just gorgeous. And I've seen Greg from Supposedly Fun talk about this book many times, and he actually bought the Franklin Mint hardback edition, which I also found, and I bought one for myself. Thank you, Greg. But this is, if you haven't read this, please check it out. Let's see, and we're getting towards the end here. 2022, I have 4 books, but 3 of them are a trilogy. For sure, I never would have discovered these books without Booktube. And I never saw these on Booktube. These were a recommendation from a friend in a group read. That's where I found out about it. And I think we group read the first one. I don't remember. But thank you to Booktube and group reading for me discovering this trilogy. And it is a translated trilogy. I don't know how I would have ever found these books without Booktube. This is the White City Trilogy. This is The Lords of Time by Eva Garcia Saenz. This is translated from Spanish by there's all kinds of maps. Nick Caistor. The Lords of Time is the 3rd book. The Water Rituals is the second book. The Silence of the White City is the first book in the trilogy, and I loved this whole trilogy. You have to read it in order. There's going to be a 4th book, so it will no longer be a trilogy. It will be a quartet, but this is fascinating. It is a detective murder series set in Spain. The description of Spanish countryside, of architecture, of the friendship, relationships, and family, and the food. Holy cow. But the mystery and the murder investigations are so interesting, fast-paced, twisty. It is so good. It is so, so good. Impeccable writing. Just, there's nothing bad about it. Go out and try it. All right, 2022. This is going to be the last book I'm going to show you because I didn't want to talk about 2023 yet because I don't want to give you any spoilers for the end of the year, but this is The Trees by Percival Everett. If you remember, I did a whole video on how angry I was that I have never heard of Percival Everett before The Trees, and he's written like 32, 33 books. He's still writing. Why have I never heard about him? Why did I not know who he was? And this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2022. It is brilliant. It is disgusting and raw and horrifying and hilarious, satirical, gross, and just masterful writing. It is a book about racism in the American South, about a little bit of fantastical realism, not too much. It's not overwhelming. It is a book about history. It is a murder investigation, murder mystery. It is so funny. There's so much meaning in so much of this book. And Percival Everett is an artist. If you can stomach it, read this. You will not be sorry. Just do it. Just do it. So, aside from this year, 2023, these are the bestest of the best books that I have read because of Booktube. So Booktube, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, it was all a joy. They were all a joy to read for one reason or another. Let me know in the comments below what you think of any of these books. If you've read them, let me know if you hated any. That's interesting to me too. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.